Hello and welcome to the Malika Writes channel. My name is Malika Writes and today I want to talk about a character in the Silmarillion called Maedhros. Maedhros the Tall was the first of 7 sons born to Fëanor and Nerdanul in Valinor. He was described as being very tall. He was also described as being quite handsome, and his 2 other names, Rhosandor and Maedhros, refer to his dark red hair, Rhosandor, and his comely look, which was Maedhros, given to him by his mother. So Rhosandor was also described as being diplomatic. He's the character that would always look for peace rather than war. When Fëanor decided to go to Middle-earth and leave the host of Fingolfin behind, it's Maedhros who asked if they were going to send ships back to get the host of Fingolfin. We have, when we look in the story, we have Maedhros being the diplomatic character. We have him being the one that always seeks for peace. Violence is not his method, even though he is perfectly capable of delivering it, as you will see when you read the Silmarillion. So he's shown as being a capable leader. He's shown as being caring for those who are in his charge. He's basically the culmination of what a Noldor prince is supposed to be. He's tall, he's handsome, he's diplomatic, he's fair. So it makes his fall all the more tragic, because this is a character who's described as having a spirit that was described like a white flame, and one of the only other characters whose spirit was described as a flame is his father, Fëanor, who was considered to be one of the greatest amongst the elves. And he was able to withstand the torment given to him by Morgoth, and also his imprisonment at the side of a mountain. So it makes his fall all the more tragic. The Silmarillion, just to give everybody sort of a background story about it, the Silmarillion centers on these 3 jewels called the Silmarils. They were created by Fëanor, Maedhros' father, and he made them out of the light of the 2 trees before they were corrupted. So within the Silmarils is contained the pure light of the trees. Even the sun and the moon were created after the trees had been corrupted. So when Fëanor makes these jewels, they are a marvel. Fëanor, it's almost like his crowning achievement. So when Morgoth sees them, he desires them. He converts the light that's inside them. And Fëanor being rash and being very passionate about everything he does, he becomes obsessed with these jewels. And Morgoth kills his father, High King Finwë, and steals the Silmarils and puts them in his own crown. So Fëanor, in grief and also in rage at having the Silmarils stolen, decides to go after Morgoth and travel to Middle-earth, convincing most of the Noldor to join him in this endeavor. So Fëanor and his sons make a very foolish oath, and that oath is kind of what drives the plot of the Silmarillion. The oath was that they would retrieve the Silmarils by any means possible at any cost. And this meant even if someone who they had previously allied with had the Silmarils, if they did not relinquish them to the Fëanorians would basically come after them and kill them. That was the oath. And they swore this not just as, a general promise, but they swore this on the name of all of the Valar and Eru Ilúvatar himself, making the oath almost permanent. And that's kind of the plot that drives the entire Silmarillion and the events inside it. This brings us to the Tragedy of Maedhros, or in other words, the tragedy of the end justifies the means. I could have chosen any other of the Fëanorians to talk about for this topic, but I chose Maedhros specifically because he wasn't rash like Celegorm, Caranther or Curufin. He wasn't young and naive like the twins, and he ended up taking his own life, unlike Maglor, who chose to bear the consequences of his actions. And the problem with the end justifies the means is that almost immediately we see how problems arise out of that particular way of thinking. When the ends justifies the means, it always ends up with you making decisions that make that destination bitter. The thing you were going after is never worth what you had to give up in the end. And that's the problem with The End Justifies the Means. And that's why Maedhros is the perfect character to talk about this topic with. We immediately begin to see the glaring issues with this way of thinking in the Silmarillion. In Valinor, the Blessed Realm, Valinor is the place that at the end of the trilogy, the elves are going back to, remove themselves from the problems of Middle-earth. So this is the Blessed Realm, this is the Undying Realm. But even there, in Valinor, at the very beginning, the Feanorians massacre the Teleri in order to get their ships to sail to Middle-earth. Then, on the other side, they abandon the host of Fingolfin to either go through the Helcarax, which is almost certain death at this point, and did result in the death of a lot of elves, or to go back to Valinor in shame after they've decided to leave. So, immediately, we see that the cost of the Silmarils is not worth it, because what is a Silmaril, or what is a jewel or prize compared to the sacred value of a life? Tolkien, unlike many of us, actually understood the value of a life. He actually understood war and murder and what that costs. Many of us, because we've seen movies or played violent video games, we think we understand the cost of murder, essentially. There is a psychological toll. If we look at veterans, people who were supposedly fighting on the right side, they still come out with... It doesn't exempt them from that toll. If you take a life, there is a punishment. Even before the law gets you, if you murder someone, we have laws in place, but there is a psychological price to pay. And Tolkien put this in his story. When Turin Turambar kills Beleg Strongbow, he descends into madness. It's not just, oh, whoops, I killed somebody and let's move on. That's not how it works. And unfortunately, in many modern stories, this isn't emphasized, because I think we've just become so desensitized to death in general that the cost of it, we don't feel it as much. But those who have actually been in war, if, again, using the example of our veterans, the way they come out, the PTSD, the fact that a lot of them end up taking their own lives, this is the real cost of taking a life. And Tolkien does not shy away from that in the Silmarillion. So Tolkien doesn't hesitate to almost show the penalty for the crimes that have been committed. And this is where we come to the whole tragedy. What makes the Silmarillion such a heart-wrenching read is the fact that after all the crimes that had been committed by the Feanorians to get the Silmaril, after the massacre in Valinor, after killing the host of Erendil and Elwing at the Havens, after slaughtering the occupants of Doriath, after everything that has happened, Maedhros devotes himself single-mindedly almost to getting the Silmaril. There's no choice for him at this point. At the point where we see Maedhros actually getting hold of the Silmarils and doing everything that he can, he has to. There is no way back for him. Unlike Turin, who is given several ways out, Maedhros doesn't necessarily have a way out, because the cost is so great that he has to get the Silmaril at this point. He's lost 5 of his brothers and his father. He's committed atrocities. He's lost his integrity, his dignity, his pride. His reputation at this point is ruined. All he has is this hope that having the Silmaril will almost atone him, or almost make this all worth it. And then in the end, when he finally gets hold of the Silmaril, he can't even hold it because it burns him. The only other person that we've seen the Silmaril burn are creatures of evil. Morgoth himself was burned by the Silmaril. And now we have Maedhros, the noble prince of the Noldor, born in Valinor. The Silmaril burns him as well, as if he were a creature of darkness. In despair, he throws himself and the Silmaril into a volcano, taking his own life. And that really is a tragic story. And I think it's a warning. Because in this day and age where hustle culture and the desire to gain riches or to live a certain way or to obtain certain things, it seems so easy. The internet has made doing terrible things or getting even with someone so easy. It may feel like the end justifies the means, but it never does. And in light of recent events, a lot of us are asking, was it worth it? 20 years of lives lost, finances thrown down the drain, only to have everything come to a close in about a week. So many who have given their lives, their time, given their emotional investment, given their financial investment are asking, was it worth it? And the answer is no, it was not. So we've often heard that it's not the destination, it's the journey, but no one in their right mind takes a pointless journey. The destination matters. But what also matters, and what I think that saying is trying to tell us, is that the way you go on the journey matters. The path you take matters. You may take a road that seems easy, and it ends up taking you a lot longer to get to your destination. You may take a road that ends up making the destination bitter, or ends up disqualifying you for the prize that you have so passionately worked for. But there is always another road that you can take, one that may seem harder, one that may seem more difficult, but it allows you to come up with what's important, with your integrity and your dignity intact. It allows you to come out with your mind intact, not having to pay the toll of those who took a road that was not worth it and that actually disqualified them from the prize that they so passionately went for. So that's the end of this video. I hope that you have enjoyed it and I've given you something to think about. The Silmarillion is a great book. It's not an allegory. I don't think it's here to teach us a bunch of life lessons. It's a story. But like any good story, it teaches you by default. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave me a comment, tell me what you thought about the video. Do you have any suggestions? I would love to know. So thank you so much once again for watching the video, and I hope you have a lovely day. This has been the Malika Writes channel.